Hey everybody, welcome back to 7 Billion Geniuses Studio. Dr. Joel Glenn Wixon here with another installment in our Music Metaphor series, using music to describe the 7 Billion Geniuses process, which is essentially about just being exactly who you are in a way that's more complicated than that statement indicates. However, if you've watched all these videos, you have a clear sense of what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, well, you can. This is the first one you've come across. Well, go back and check out previous installments, and hopefully you'll get a sense of what we're talking about. Because today, rather than reiterate all that I've already spoken about, I want to talk about change again. So this is the second, not choice, this is the second installment. Last week I was talking about choice, and I talked about the infinite possibilities that we have in the context of choice. And this week I want to talk about how many of us, and I was actually speaking to a good friend of mine yesterday, who finds herself sometimes completely paralyzed by possibilities. And so yesterday, as I was talking about possibility, I was literally, you can rewatch that video if you'd like to. One of the things that I try to do in life is to expose what's going on in my head. And but I find when I'm doing these videos, it's more difficult to do that because I don't want these videos to be long and tedious, and I want to kind of get to the point. So the tangents can sometimes undermine that. But last week, as I was talking about the infinite possibilities, I was thinking about how sometimes that very notion can be overwhelming for people and somewhat scary for folks. And so this installment is an attempt to try to address that, because it speaks to something that's very much a part of my own personal experience, but that I've also learned from other folks that I've had the opportunity to speak to and learn from. And it is simply this idea that whatever choice we make, it just creates further possibilities. And I'll say that again, whatever choice we make, it creates further possibilities, as opposed to this cultural mythology that we're mostly indoctrinated into, which suggests that there are absolutely right and wrong choices, that there are good and bad outcomes. Another friend of mine kind of taught me about this notion of the one right outcome, and that phrase kind of elucidated this notion that we were kind of drawn into, that there is one right way to be and one right direction to go in, and it ultimately blocks off this infinite number of possibilities that are always available to us. But this headset that I've taken up in the context of all those possibilities I found extraordinarily useful. And it is simply, again, to restate this notion that whatever happens, it just creates possibilities, so that the choices that we make are ultimately not intended to create a specific outcome. They are simply the choices that we make. So that's kind of a big idea too, that the choices that we make are simply that. We have made this choice, and this choice has brought us to this place. And this place is simply the next place that we are. And so what that does is it completely removes, or it's intended to remove, that evaluative positioning in the context of a choice that we make that says it's the wrong choice, or this outcome is somehow other than it's supposed to be. In many ways, even the notion of luck, that you're lucky if X happens, is a manifestation of this cultural mythology, that there are certain outcomes that are the right ones and certain outcomes that are the wrong ones. And I had an experience of this personally that happened over the course of a couple of months, where I was actually trying to buy something on the internet and from a distant source. And every time, and so I did, I ultimately purchased this item. It's actually sitting right there, the final product. It's an amplifier, and it came 3 times, it came damaged. And so by the 3rd time I was kind of wondering, is this the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I even be doing this? Does it make sense for me to continue to kind of bother these people to send me more amplifiers that show up damaged that I then have to send back? But it occurred to me after actually ordering the 4th one to come in the mail, that every single time I was in the process of it being on the way, it was wonderful, and I was excited, and I was kind of like Christmas again. And so rather than thinking about the right or wrongness of the amplifiers arriving damaged and what I had to do in order to continue the process of sending them back and evaluating it based on that, I just thought got caught up in the process of how wonderful it was to always be in this excited place, and part of what allowed me to do that in that particular incident was that the guy who I'm working with on the other end was extraordinarily accommodating and didn't mind at all sending me a fourth one. So that opened me up to realize that what I was doing is I was caught in the one right outcome notion and not paying attention to the possibilities that existed on the other side of the choice that I made to just continue the process, which was to have this experience of excitement that just kind of went on as long as the process was going on, and then ultimately an amplifier showed up that wasn't damaged, and that's great. And so so the end of the process was that, but it was a great learning lesson for me to pay attention to what happens when I can get caught up in the one right outcome ideas, which brings me to something that I'll just state very briefly, that these ideas that I throw out are ideas that I carry around. They are not places that I reside in 24/7. I get caught up in notions about how things are supposed to be and the one right outcome and ideas about luck all the time. And as I've said many times here in these videos, and also say very often in the book, for me it's not about not getting caught up in those places, it's about not staying there very long. And so my hope is that over the course of kind of taking up these practices in my own life, I continue to shorten the amount of time that I spend in those places where I'm caught up in things like the one right outcome. So today the message is that choices just bring us to the next series of possibilities. The choices are choices. They are the choices that we make. And if we can remove ourselves from that evaluative, and in retrospect, I'm not talking about considering the possibilities and that it doesn't matter which choice you make. In some ways, you want to make choices based on the best information that you have at the time, which is what I believe we always do. We're constantly functioning with the best information that we have at the time, and that choice is an outcome of that. But the reverse evaluative, once you get to the other end of the choice where the outcome is manifest and you go, oh, that was the wrong choice, that's what I'm talking about, moving past. It is a choice that you made. Evaluating the choice has no utility except it makes me feel bad when I get into that place. And I'd rather just be in the, okay, so here I am now, this is what's happened, what's possible for me now that wasn't possible before. So, and in the spirit of that, I'm going to do a song for everybody. It's called Constance Waits. And the message in this song is about how even though there are these possibilities in our lives, that we can get caught up in fear and get stuck in places because of fear. And oftentimes that fear is fueled by these notions that there are rights and wrongs and in terms of choices, and that in retrospectively we look at choices as having been bad, and we can get stuck in the possibility of having the possibility of doing that again. The ropes are hanging by the kitchen door. Higher states are working. She has desperate vision, things she hasn't seen before. His body shakes, he's a man in need. Arms and legs are jerking. Broken man by the window, take a stand, what do you know? Hey, yeah, can you set me free? Yeah, 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 yeah. Children, I've got to tell the tale. Many can all be free. Yeah, 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 yeah. Constant sweats her hopes are hanging by the kitchen door. Higher stairs are working, she can see the answer. Oh, she can see the answer. But fear won't let her go, no, no, no. Fear won't let her go, no, no, no. Fear won't let her go, no, no, no. No, 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 no. Fear won't let her go. It's Constance Waits. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you watching these videos. And subscribe if you want to. Share them if you want to. But it's most important, actually, I appreciate that you watch them. I appreciate who watches these videos. And I do hear from a lot of you folks, and I really appreciate that too. All my contact information is at the end of the video. If you don't know me from Adam, I am Dr. Joel Glenwickson, and I'd love to hear from you, hear your comments, hear your thoughts, your own personal inspirations. But do stay in touch, and thanks for watching.